All right, we are live on YouTube. We're here in court. Let me tell you what I think we're doing. We have a jury selection day tomorrow, first in a while. And first out was going to be Mr. Williams. He pled. Then Mr. Veet, but I got the pretrial diversion, whatever the new program is called, through the DA's office, signed that order. So next up is Mr. Richardson, which is position 24 on our calendar. Is Mr. Richardson here?
Yes, Your Honor.
He is. Mr. Richardson has a CP matter as well. Tell me what we're doing, Ms. Patel, with Mr. Richardson today.
Your Honor, we have a negotiated plea on the SC case, and the state is declining the CP.
Okay. Are you ready to go forward with that, or do you need time to speak with Mr. Richardson?
We've spoken and we're ready to move forward.
Fantastic. Would you like to stay at council table, or do you want to be up at the podium? Why don't you come up and you talk with Ms. Patel, and we'll figure it out. Ms. Charles, are you ready to go forward with Mr. Richardson? Great. All right. Well, let's get on the record then. This is position 24 on our trial calendar. It's State versus, is it pronounced Tomar? Tomar Richardson, 21 SC 177346. Mr. Richardson is here in court with his lawyer, Ms. Patel. Ms. Charles is here for the state. Let's make sure everyone's microphones are on. Mr. Richardson, you're a big guy. So when you talk, you either need to be loud or lean on in towards that microphone, because it's important that Ms. Rivers, the court reporter, be able to hear you, okay?
All right.
Good. In just a moment, Ms. Charles is going to put you under oath, and then she's going to ask you a bunch of questions. There are things that I'm guessing you and Ms. Patel already talked about, but it's important that you answer Ms. Charles's questions thoroughly and truthfully. If at any time we're having this conversation, you've got a question of your own, or you're confused by something, or it's just not going the way Ms. Patel told you it was going to go, we should stop. And you and Ms. Patel can talk. You can ask me a question, but I need to make sure that you are understanding what we're doing. So if you're not, will you let me know that?
Yes, sir.
Great. All right. So it sounds like it's going to be a plea to the indictment, and then the state will get on the record that it is not pursuing the charges in the CP matter. When you're ready, Ms. Charles.
Thank you, Your Honor. And that is correct. We are no longer pursuing the CP matter. Mr. Richardson, may you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in the matter currently before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You may lower your head. Could you state your true and legal and correct name, please?
Tamar Richardson.
Could you spell Tamar?
Tomar.
And Mr. Richardson, are you at this time taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine?
No.
How old are you and how far have you gone in school?
21. And I'm working on my GED right now. I went 12th grade.
And are you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand that you are charged with the following offenses in Indictment 21 SC 177346, robbery by sudden snatching?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to these charges? And if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you reviewed the waiver of rights form with your attorney? Oh, we're not. Oh,
We're not doing that?
I did not fill that out, but I
Okay.
am more than happy to.
No, we won't, but going forward, if we're taking a plea off a trial calendar, let's try to get that just so it's in the record.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Richardson, have you had enough time to speak with your lawyer, Ms. Patel, about all of the facts and circumstances surrounding the charges in this indictment and any potential defenses?
Yes.
Do you need more time to discuss the case with your attorney?
No.
Are you satisfied with her services?
Yes, ma'am.
Counsel, do you waive formal reading of the indictment?
So waived.
Do you waive any and all defects in the indictment, include any with respect to the defendant's name?
Waive for the purposes of this plea only.
Thank you. Mr. Richardson, have you been arrested on these charges? Have you been arrested on these charges?
No.
Were you ever arrested in connection with
Yes,
this?
yes, yes.
Okay, you're obviously out on bond now, so you got a bond. Are you aware of any warrants still outstanding in connection with these charges?
No, sir.
And has your attorney advised you of the minimum and maximum sentence for the charge you are pleading to today?
Yes.
And Your Honor, the minimum would be 1 year, a maximum being 20 years for robbery by sudden snatching. And this is a negotiated plea, Mr. Richardson. Do you understand that this means the state will recommend to the court a sentence of 2 years probation, restitution to the victim, Andrea Brovald, in the amount of $600, and you must stay away from the 5 Points MARTA train station located at 30 Alabama Street Southwest, Atlanta, Georgia, 30303, unless it becomes necessary that you go through the hub for work. And at that point, you must notify probation to make any modifications.
Okay.
Sure. However, Mr. Richardson, you must note that the court does not have to accept this recommendation. The court can sentence you to the maximum on each charge and can run the sentences consecutively or one after the other.
Except there's only one sentence here, so you don't have to worry about that. There's only one count, so it'll be whatever I decide on that.
Okay.
Mr. Richardson, do you understand that this plea may be used to enhance sentencing on other convictions in this jurisdiction, as well as in other jurisdictions, including the federal courts?
I do.
And do you understand that if you're placed on probation of any kind, you cannot violate any criminal laws of the governmental unit or any special conditions of probation without being subject to revocation for the balance of the sentence?
I do.
And do you understand that you're not allowed to possess or use a firearm while on probation?
I do.
Are you a United States citizen?
Yes.
Do you understand that there may be other adverse or unfavorable consequences as a result of this guilty plea conviction, just as there would be had you gone to trial? For example, your guilty plea may affect the right to vote, the right to hold public office, the right to serve on a jury, the right to obtain a passport, the right to receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or the ability to gain employment.
I do.
Mr. Richardson, are you being asked to be treated as a first offender under the provisions of the First Offender Act?
Yes.
Have you ever pleaded guilty or nolo contendere, or ever been convicted of a felony in the state of Georgia or any other jurisdiction?
No.
Have you ever been sentenced for any crime, felony, or misdemeanor under the First Offender Act?
No.
And has your lawyer explained the First Offender Act to you?
Yes.
And do you understand that if you violate the terms of your first offender sentence or commit a new offense while on first offender probation, your first offender status could be revoked, you could be adjudicated guilty, and you could be resentenced up to the maximum sentence for the charge in this indictment?
I do.
And do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, including any mental health defenses, by entering a plea of guilty today?
Do.
And do you understand that if you went to trial, you would have the right to trial by jury, the right to see, hear, and confront witnesses called to testify against you, the right to testify or to remain silent and to not incriminate yourself?
Yes.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter a guilty plea today?
No.
And is it your decision to waive these rights and enter a guilty plea because you are in fact guilty?
Yes.
How do you plead to the charge of robbery by sudden snatching, OCGA 16840, in indictment number 21 SC 177346?
Yes.
How do you plead?
Oh, guilty.
And is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with the full knowledge of the charge against you?
Yes.
Do you understand you may only have a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Yes.
This means you may only have 4 years from today for a felony charge, 12 months for today for a misdemeanor charge, which doesn't apply, to file a habeas corpus petition challenging the voluntariness of this guilty plea.
Yes.
Your Honor, the state is unaware of any criminal history for Mr. Richardson. And had the state proceeded to trial, the state would have expected to show that on January 15th, 2020, Ms. Andrea Brovald, who was visiting Atlanta from Wisconsin, was on the 139 car of the Martyr train headed towards Nuff Springs train station. The train pulled in briefly at the 5 Points stage stop. While it was stopped, the car was open. Mr. Richardson was walking along the outside of the car, just having gotten off a different train coming in from West End train station. Ms. Brovald was on her iPhone at the time, and just as the train was about to pull off, Mr. Richardson entered the car and snatched her phone from her possession. Because it happened so quickly, Ms. Brovald was not able to see who had snatched the phone clearly. However, she reported that the snatching to Martyr officers who were then able to pull surveillance cameras. And based on the surveillance review of the surveillance cameras, officers were able to see Mr. Richardson exit the Martyr trains at the West End stop, walk along the 5 Points location, and then subsequently snatch the phone and then run up the escalator and exit the station. So therefore, Your Honor, based on the foregoing, the state recommends 2 years probation, restitution to be repaid to Ms. Brovald in the amount of $600, and to stay away from 5 Points as previously mentioned. We ask that you honor our negotiated plea today.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Brovald, you have a way of contacting her so that restitution can get to her?
Yes, Your Honor, I have spoken to her. She wasn't able to join us today, but I have a full information. I can give that to probation.
Okay. And she understands that the case is resolving along these lines?
Yes, Your Honor, and she's okay. She doesn't want to come back to Atlanta. She was traumatized by this event,
Okay.
but she's happy.
Thank you for that. Ms. Tucson, do you have any criminal history information on Mr. Richardson? Oh, you're right there. You were on this. Like, I figured you would be on the screen. You're right there. Hey. Okay. Got it. All right, Ms. Patel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Before you is Mr. Richardson. He's 21 years old. Ordinarily, his mother is here to accompany him. She's attended every court date in the past. He is originally from Delaware, but moved to Atlanta 12 years ago with his family. He lives with his mother and his 2 siblings at that location. In speaking in depth with his mother as well as himself, money had been tight in the household around this time. Mr. Richardson was working part-time with his mother's security firm. And
As in, sorry to interrupt, she owns it or she works there and she helps your client get a job there?
the latter, Your Honor.
Okay.
And it requires both Mr. Richardson's income as well as his mother's income to help sustain the household. I don't believe that Mr. Richardson anticipated what he did arising to a felony. I think in his mind it was taking an item. And so this has absolutely scared him scared him pretty straight is what his mother said. Since this incident, he has been working, he works with a company that contracts with several stadiums. And so I think the big stadium he's at right now is the Nissan Stadium, which I believe is in Florida. And so he has Tennessee. So he has to drive out of town for work whenever that opportunity presents itself. I was really trying to resolve this with diversion. That is what I'd been talking with Ms. Hall about. The issue was his CP case.
Which is what allegation?
And that is a marijuana with intent. And that case, the reason for the state declining it is that search warrant was executed. My client was in this house, none of his belongings, no mail.
Not mom's house.
Not mom's house, not the house that he was followed to as a part of this case. Crazy enough, the co-defendant in that case, Your Honor, that case was dismissed, Octavius McGee, because he had a federal drug trafficking case in Miami.
Yeah, he had bigger fish to fry.
Right,
by
and
far.
there were 2 other women that were also arrested in connection. One was not charged at all because police said that she cooperated, and the other was charged with a misdemeanor marijuana. The state provided me with the photographs and body cam. There was nothing in there that would have indicated that Mr. Richardson would have been a participant in what was going on in the house. With that being said, I had a long conversation about knowing better and keeping better company. His mother said that since he's been working, he hasn't had time to hang out with friends. And that his main goal is to just try to bring in money into the household. And so, Your Honor, we are requesting that while he's making restitution, that his fees be waived so that he can try to make the complaining witness whole and then not be also doubly paying to probation. There are a lot of lessons to be learned, and Mr. Richardson knows that as a 6'4" man that he's going to stick out like a sore thumb anywhere, and that police in general are going to find his presence intimidating. He's only 21, but when I met him at 20, he looked like he was, an older gentleman that police might expect more from him. And so I think that he is hopefully going to prove to us that he is going to stay in the right direction. I've certainly explained the drawbacks of first offender and why it is very important not to get in trouble, that this has to be the end of it for him.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's very helpful. I appreciate the work you've done on his behalf. I also understand why the state decided that while this might be on the threshold of diversion, it didn't quite fall in there. And that's, of course, their discretion to exercise. Mr. Richardson, I got a few questions for you. And then if there's anything you want to add, you should feel free to do that. So tell me about this job. What is it that you do at a stadium? Like if you're, first of all, Nissan Stadium, is that where the Titans play?
Yeah.
So you're going when there's a Titans game, and what are you doing?
Titans game, like basically soccer. I'm basically doing events like soccer, football, sports, concerts.
Right, but let's say there's an event at Nissan Stadium. Are you playing the soccer game, or
I'm an event security?
Security.
Yeah.
Got it. So it's security work, but you are mobile in the sense you're going to an event that happens to be in Tennessee and providing security.
Yeah.
Are you providing security for the players or security, like you're one of those guys who's
Throughout the stadium.
Hmm?
Throughout the stadium.
Okay. Any chance you can do that locally, or it's always going to be far away?
It's in Atlanta too.
Okay.
It's at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium too.
How many hours a week do you get?
However long the game is, basically. Like,
But there's like one game a week or 2 games a week. That's it. Like if there's no game on Wednesday,
it's multiple like different different states, so it's different events. So
Okay, so something could be happening at Mercedes-Benz. It's a concert. You're there anyway because you're providing security.
I'm either there or at a different state in at a different event.
Okay. So in a given week, are you working 5 days a week or 2 days a week?
About like 5 days.
Okay. Are you now making enough to help you and your mom take care of the bills?
Sort of like that.
I hear you. Is your mom still doing security work?
Yeah.
Ms. Patel mentioned that you have some siblings. Are they older or younger than you?
One of them older and one of them younger.
Is the older one helping contribute to the household, or is that person gone?
He still live, but he not staying with us.
He doesn't live with you.
Yeah, he don't live with us, but he's still contributing.
Okay. Do you have any kids? How did you know Mr. McGee?
I don't know him.
You don't know him. How did you end up in that house?
I'm an engineer.
You're an engineer?
Yes,
What does that mean?
I do music.
Oh, so it was a studio as well as whatever else was in that house.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you make money as an engineer?
Yes, I just started going to his house.
You just started going to what?
I just started going to the house. Like when y'all had came that day, that was my first day.
Got it. Are you still doing engineering work?
Yes, but at a different location.
I'm sure it's a different location. So do you make more money as an engineer or as a security guy?
Engineer.
Do you just not get enough hours of engineering and that's why you do the security work?
Yeah.
Okay. Which do you enjoy more?
Music.
Okay. All right. You have any questions for me?
No, sir.
What ended up happening with the phone?
Can't even really tell you about that, sir.
Well, it was in your hands and then it wasn't. Did you give it to someone? Did you sell it? Did you flush it down the toilet? What happened to it?
When I threw it in the trash after she started yelling.
Okay. Well, Mr. Richardson, I find there is a factual basis for your plea, meaning that if this did go to trial, which it's not, the jury could find that you did commit robbery by sudden snatch, which just means you took the phone from the woman's hands. And it turns out for you that that's a felony. You could have taken a stick of gum from her hands. Robbery is always a felony. And you didn't know that. You've learned it now. Obviously, the more valuable the thing you take, the more serious people view it. And phones aren't cheap. And most of all, it wasn't your phone to be grabbing to begin with. I also find that your plea is knowing and voluntary. Voluntary means no one's forcing you to enter this plea. You're doing it because you've had a lot of time to think about it, talk with mom, talk with Ms. Patel, and you've decided that it's in your best interest to take the plea. Is that correct?
Yes.
And knowing just means you've understood all the things we talked about. You told me you don't have any questions, so I take it that you understand the different things Ms. Charles and Ms. Patel and I have been sharing with you.
Yes, sir, I do.
All right. I'm going to sentence you pursuant to what's called the Probation Options Management Act. And all that means is that while you're on probation, if you have a technical violation, that's a small violation. Maybe you miss a meeting, or maybe you agree with probation that you're going to pay restitution at a certain rate. And I'm making the number up, but $50 a month. If you fall behind, they might say that's a violation. You don't have to come see me for that. You and probation can work that out. If you get arrested for something, you're coming back to me because that's a serious violation. You got in trouble again. That comes back to me. Ms. Patel, we are working off an electronic copy of the indictment. Do you waive any issues that might arise from that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Richardson, if we had the original of your indictment, which exists, it's in the clerk's office, you'd be signing it right now, indicating your guilty plea. Do you authorize me to sign electronically for you?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Patel
Yes, Your Honor.
and Ms. Charles?
Yes, Your Honor.
Where are you getting your GED?
I'm trying to go to Atlanta Metropolitan.
When you say you're trying to, are you already at Atlanta Metropolitan or are you going to start?
I'm about to start
When would that be?
next week.
Okay. Are you partway through your GED? Did you already do some of it, or you'd be starting at the beginning?
I'm just starting at the beginning.
All right. Ms. Charles, is the state going to decline prosecution in 21 CP 197872, or has that already happened?
Your Honor, that already happened yesterday. And just to kind of give a fuller picture, the reason why we declined the CP case was on review of all of the video evidence, including the Apex helicopter footage. The state was unable to prove without being under reasonable doubt that he would have had constructive or even actual possession of the alleged marijuana, given the location of where it was found. And the fact that when, right before Apex entered, Mr. Richardson had already exited the house and was found about 5 minutes away from the property.
Got it. So there was a helicopter there as well.
Yes, Your Honor, it was a
Those
full-on.
Apex guys are serious.
Mhm.
All right.
It's already been, it was filed yesterday. I don't yet see it in the case, but it was filed yesterday.
Been taken care of. Mr. Richardson, you are asking to be sentenced as a first offender, which you're eligible for because you've not had a conviction before. First offender is largely a benefit because it means that when you leave here today, you still don't have a conviction. So if you're looking to get a different job or you're applying at Atlanta Metropolitan and there's a question on there saying, are you a convicted felon? The answer is you are not. You'll actually be under sentence for a felony, but you're not a convicted felon because we try to give folks as often as we can a second chance, which is what first offender is all about. If you successfully complete your probation, doesn't get revoked, and you don't lose your first offender status, then you'll still have a clean rap sheet. You will not have any convictions, which is a great thing. You're young, you're going to go places, whether it's in music or business or security or whatever, and a felony is a burden to drag around. Because some folks are going to say, why would I hire you? I'll hire that guy because he's got a clean history. And what's this robbery thing? I don't want you in my warehouse. I don't want you in my studio. So it's generally a good thing. But first offender carries a real big risk that I need to make sure you understand. If while you are on probation, you catch new charges and the state convinces me by a fairly low burden that you committed a new charge, I could not only revoke your probation, but because you've already pled guilty and say, I grabbed that woman's phone from her hands and ran away, I could resentence you up to the maximum, which is 20 years here. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I am telling you that if we're together again in 9 months and the story is and the video footage is you reaching into a MARTA car and you grab a woman's or a guy, it doesn't matter who it is, you grab someone else's stuff and you're running off, you're going to prison. Could go to prison on the new case, but I'll take away your first offender status and say, clearly, Mr. Richardson, you fooled Ms. Patel, you fooled your mom, you hadn't turned a corner, you didn't learn your lesson, and we're going to need to try something different because first offender didn't work. Now, if you pretty sure you're not going to run with the same crowd, stay out of places like Mr. McGee's house, then first offender is a great opportunity. But I need to make sure you understand that risk that it could really blow up hard if you get in trouble again. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Understanding the benefit of first offender and the risk of first offender, do you want to be sentenced as a first offender?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, well, you are certainly entitled to it, and I think it's a good opportunity for you. You are young, but if you get that GED and keep pushing, you go places, and you don't need that felony following you around. All right, last question, and then I'll tell you what I think is a reasonable sentence here. Right now, you are asking for 2 years probation. You're going to need to pay $600 in restitution. And if you haven't paid a lot of it and we're getting closer to the end of your probation, I might start turning that into, well, you're going to need to do community service because you're not paying it. I might say for every dollar you still owe, you need to do 5 community service hours, or who knows what. I don't know how we would work through that. I want to make sure 2 years is enough time for you to pay that off. And if you think it's not enough time, then maybe we should do 3 years. If you think, hey, I'll be able to get $600 together during those 2 years. It doesn't have to be day one. It doesn't have to be month one. But if we get into month 13 or 14 and you've paid 0, then we're going to have a conversation about, hey, you know what? I can't change your sentence now in terms of making it longer. But what I can do is say, forget about restitution. I want you to do 50 hours of community service each month. Maybe you'd rather do that, but that's a lot. So is 2 years enough to pay that, or do we need to build in more?
2 years, good.
It's good. Is it enough?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then I'll follow the recommendation, Mr. Richardson, and I will sentence you to 2 years. It'll be on probation. There'll be a special condition of your probation that you pay $600 in restitution. You'll give that to probation as you are able. Like I said, it could be $50 at a time. It could be $10 at a time. You and probation will talk about that. They get it to Ms. Brovold, who, by the way, her last name is Brovold. So you're not going to have any contact with her. You get it to probation, they get it to the right place. I'm going to have you do 80 hours of community service. That's over the course of 2 years. So it's not day one or month one. You need to do that. I will waive your probation reporting fees for the first year. So I'll give you a chance, if you're making money, after you help mom take care of what she needs to take care of, start paying off that restitution. But after the first year of probation, you'll start paying the supervision fees. I'm also going to require you to get your GED, or at least start it. I don't know how long it takes to get a GED. I hope it wouldn't take 2 years. So ideally you get your GED, but it'll be a condition of your probation that you show probation, one, I've enrolled, and two, I'm moving along. And it may need to go slowly because you're working and doing other things, but basically I want you to move towards getting that degree, if not getting into something just to get into college, okay? And then finally, to stay away from 5 Points MARTA station. That makes sense to me, given what happened and what you were doing down there. But I also know that it's pretty hard to take a MARTA train and not go through 5 Points. I don't know where mom's house is, where you're staying. Do you need to be outside of MARTA trains at 5 Points, as opposed to you're on a train, but you're just passing through? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I do. I wouldn't be needing to take the train.
Okay. But if you did take the train, you wouldn't need to get on or off at 5 Points. Is that correct?
I would.
Okay. Then I'm going to require you to stay away from the MARTA 5 Points station unless you're a passenger on a train, in which case you can pass through it. But you don't get off the train there. You don't get on the train there. Go to Garnett if you need to get on. Go to, they don't call it Omni anymore. I don't know what the one is, the CNN Center one, but don't get on or off at 5 Points. That was a bad spot for you. Ms. Charles, anything else in connection with Mr. Richardson's sentence?
No, Your Honor, I think you've covered everything.
All right, Ms. Patel?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Richardson, any questions about anything we just talked about?
No, sir.
Okay. Before you head out, you're going to need to meet with Ms. Tucson. She just needs to get some contact information for you, and she's going to give you reporting instructions. Your most important date between now and 2 weeks from now is to show up at probation that first time, so they can get to know you, they can assign an officer to you, and you get registered with them. If you miss that, I get a warrant, and we're starting off the wrong way. So make sure you make that, okay?
I got you.
All right, good luck with everything.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
I think Pritchett is here. I think they brought him over.
Yes, they were supposed to, because she needed to come.
I do. So I just need to make sure a prosecutor stays here. So I'll tell Ms. Charles. Ms. Charles, thank you for helping with Mr. Richardson. I know Ms. Beza is on this call and she's going to handle Griffin. But before we get there, we have Mr. Pritchett here. He is one of the defendants in Pritchett, Robinson, Riley, not your case, but Mr. Pritchett needs to have a conversation with me about representation. And so I need to make sure there is a prosecutor in here when that happens. So either you can sit tight while we do the Griffin plea, you can come back in 20 minutes, or you could let, I think Mr. Parrish has that case now, but you could let someone know that by 10:30, we need someone either on Zoom or in here from the state to be here when I talk with Mr. Pritchett. Okay, thanks. All right, our next case that I think we're dealing with is Cortez Griffin. Is Mr. Griffin here? Hey, Mr. Griffin. Ms. Patel, are you ready for Mr. Griffin? Do you need time with him?
Your Honor, I don't need time to speak with him, but I did not fill out a plea sheet, and there are no copies at the table.
Right, we'll get more. They need to say 2022 on them. I've got one here that we can make a copy of, but unless you think again, I'd like to do it going forward. We didn't do one with Mr. Richardson either. I'm okay going forward unless there's something about this one where you think it's.
I don't think so. It's negotiated, so
Okay.
I don't anticipate any wrinkles.
Okay.
And good morning, Your Honor. I was
Good
actually
morning.
just at the clerk's office. You should be able to access, I think, fingers crossed, the state court files that were sent up to Superior Court. She said it should be immediate.
Okay, there's state court cases too. So just tell me what we're doing. I've got one indictment. It's an aggravated assault strangulation where I think then the victim is also indicted. And so we'll talk about that complication. But Mr. Griffin has some state court cases or a
Yes.
case?
There are 2 pending misdemeanors, and as part of this global resolution, Ms. Beza offered to resolve those as part of this plea.
Got it.
Yes.
And
And
they
they were
would,
transferred.
they were transferred. So they will be in the docket of the 21 SC, or I just need to go into those state court files and I can see them?
They should be in the I did a green sheet, so they should be in the docket of the 21 SC, I believe. I'm not
No,
sure
I-
exactly how the transfer works.
I think you may just have my name on it. Can I get, before we go on the record, what those case file numbers are? Please?
They have CR numbers.
Yep,
Okay.
that's okay. Just tell me what they say.
20 CR 004604F, like in Frank,
Long, okay.
and then 21 CR 002720F, like in Frank.
All right, let me see if I can get into one of those. CR 002720F is in Frank. Oh, they've become 22. They're now SC cases? How strange. I've never seen that happen before. Okay. Got it. So what the clerk's office did is turn them into Superior Court cases. It's 22 SC 180646 and 22 SC 180647. So I'm looking at 646, my case now. It's family violence, simple battery, and criminal trespass. And the only thing in the docket is the accusation, which is all I need. And then we've got the 647 as well. Huh. Way to go, clerk's office. I've never seen that happen before.
Is the 646 related to the January 21st, 2020 incident?
I don't know. It's being
Oh.
slow in opening up the accusation, but once it does, I'll tell you what it says. Try again.
My computer keeps shutting off, so I can't.
Here it is. So the 646 is January 21,
Okay.
2020. It's a battery on a Jasmine Gransberry.
Yes.
And then the 647 is same victim, but it's September 12th, 2020. Poor Ms. Gransberry. All right. Is Ms. Gransberry the victim in the case we've got also?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, and then Ms. Gransberry is a defendant. Okay.
Yes.
So poor Mr. Griffin. Okay. Complicated world out there. All right. So Ms. Patel, what you're saying is there is a negotiated resolution of Mr. Griffin effectively entering pleas to all three matters?
Correct.
Got
But
it.
only being under felony probation.
Got it. Okay. Ms. Beza, are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, let's go on the record. This is position 26 on our trial calendar, along with two other cases. So it's 21 SC 177415. That's a trial calendar case with some felony charges. And then we also are dealing today with 22 SC 180646 and 22 SC 180647. Mr. Griffin is here in court with Ms. Patel. Ms. Beza is appearing remotely for the state. Mr. Griffin, you ready to go?
Yes, sir, Judge.
Great, and way to speak up. I appreciate that. Mr. Griffin, in just a moment, Ms. Beza is going to put you under oath. Once you're under oath, it's important that you answer all her questions truthfully.
Yes, sir.
It is just as important that you let me or Ms. Patel know if you've got questions of your own. It sounds like you and Ms. Patel have worked most things out with the state, but there can be surprises. So if you hear something that is not what you thought you were going to hear, just say, wait, we need to stop, and you and Ms. Patel can talk, or you and I can talk, okay?
Yes, sir.
Great. When you're ready, Ms. Beza.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in the matter currently before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
You may put your hand down. Please state your true, correct, and legal name.
Cortez Griffin.
Are you at this time taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine?
No.
How old are you and how far have you gone in school?
I'm 22 and I graduated
Graduated high school or college?
high school.
Where'd you go to high school?
Benjamin E. Mays.
Are you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you are charged with the following offenses? For Indictment 21 SC 177415, you're charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault, 2 counts of cruelty to children in the 3rd degree, 2 counts of simple battery, and 1 count of theft by taking. For Indictment 2022 SC 180646, you're charged with 2 misdemeanors, battery, and criminal damage to property. And for Indictment, which is an accusation, 2022 SC 180647, you're charged with battery, misdemeanor battery.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to these charges? And if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial.
Yes.
Have you had enough time to speak with your lawyer about all of the facts and circumstances known to you regarding the charges in these indictments, including any potential defenses?
Yes.
Do you need more time to discuss these cases with your attorney?
No.
Are you satisfied with her services?
Yes.
Ms. Patel, do you waive formal reading of the indictment?
So waived.
Do you waive any and all defects in the indictments, plural?
Waived for the purposes of these pleas only.
And Mr. Griffin, have you been arrested on these charges?
Yes.
The state is unaware of any outstanding warrants related to these charges. Do you or your attorney know of any outstanding warrants that are related to these charges?
No.
Has your attorney advised you of the minimum and maximum sentence for each charge that you are pleading to?
Really not the maximum. Like, you talking about, like, have she explained the maximum years or something that the charges add up to?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. I'm going to go through them now. For indictment ending in 415 for the Aggravated assaults, the maximums are 20 years, minimum is 1. Cruelty to children charges, simple battery and theft by taking are all misdemeanors, so the maximum would be 12 months, the minimum is a day. In addition, for indictments ending in 646 and 647, the battery charges and the criminal damage to property, those are misdemeanors, so the maximum is 12 months as well. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand that this is a negotiated plea of guilty, which means the state will recommend to the court a sentence of 3 years on probation, plus the family violence intervention program, plus no contact whatsoever with Jasmine's Gransberry. But the court does not have to accept that recommendation. The court can sentence you to the maximum on each charge and can run those sentences consecutively or one after the other. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that this plea may be used to enhance sentencing on other convictions in this jurisdictions, as well as in other jurisdictions, including federal court?
Yes.
Do you understand that if you're currently on probation or parole, your probation or parole may be revoked based on you entering a guilty plea today?
Yes.
Do you understand if you're placed on probation of any kind, you cannot violate any criminal laws of any governmental unit or any special conditions of probation without being subject to revocation for the balance of the sentence?
Yes.
Do you understand that you are not allowed to possess or use a firearm while on probation?
Yes.
Do you understand if you are not a United States citizen, a guilty plea conviction will affect your immigration status and will result in deportation, just like a conviction at a trial would, and that is true regardless of any advice by your attorney or anyone else?
Yes.
Do you understand that there may be other adverse or unfavorable consequences as a result of this guilty plea conviction, just as there would be from a conviction following a trial? For example, your guilty plea conviction may affect the right to vote, the right to hold public office, the right to serve on a jury, the right to obtain a passport, the right to receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or the ability to obtain employment.
Yes.
Your Honor. Are you asking to be treated, well, Ms. Patel, is he asking to be treated as a first offender? I know we spoke about that, but I didn't know the decision.
Yes.
Are you asking to be treated as a first offender under the provisions of the First Offender Act?
Yes.
Have you ever pleaded guilty or nolo contendere to or ever been convicted of a felony in the state of Georgia or any other jurisdiction?
No, ma'am.
Have you ever been sentenced for any crime, felony or misdemeanor, under the provisions of the First Offender Act?
No, ma'am.
Has your lawyer explained the First Offender Act to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you violate the terms of your first offender sentence or commit a new offense while on first offender probation, your first offender status could be revoked, you could be adjudicated guilty, and you could be resentenced up to the maximum sentence for each charge in this indictment?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, included any mental health defenses, by entering a plea of guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand that if you went to trial, you would have the right to trial by jury, the right to see, hear, and confront witnesses called to testify against you, and the right to testify or to remain silent and not incriminate yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the following rights: the right to trial by jury, the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself, the right to confront witnesses against you, the right to assistance of counsel hired by you or to court-appointed counsel if you cannot afford an attorney at a trial of your case, the right to the presumptions of innocence, the right to testify on your own behalf and to present other evidence, the right to subpoena witnesses and compel the production of evidence, the right to have the charges against you proved beyond a reasonable doubt, and the right to appeal if convicted of these charges after trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter a guilty plea?
No, ma'am.
How do you plead to the charges in all 3 indictments?
I mean, can I say it like without saying like not guilty, guilty, or can I like put it in like a sentence?
As long as it has the magic words in it, you can put it in a whole paragraph.
All right, well, it's gonna be guilty then.
And you'll get a chance if there's things you want to share with me, Mr. Griffin, to say, let me tell you what was going on here. You may not want to, but you get a chance to talk, because I'm gonna have some questions for you.
Okay. Yeah. So it's guilty because I wouldn't say not guilty because I'm going on probation for it, so it's a guilty.
Okay. And is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with the full knowledge of the charges against you?
Yes.
Do you understand that you may only have a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction? You have 4 years from today for a felony charge and 12 months from today for a misdemeanor charge to file a habeas corpus petition challenging the voluntariness of this guilty plea?
Yes.
At this time, Your Honor, the state does not have any felony convictions for Mr. Griffin on our GCIC. I'm going to start with, indictment ending in 646. If this case had proceeded to trial, the state would have expected this evidence to show that on January 21st of 2020, officers responded to a domestic disturbance at 7350 Campbellton Road here in Fulton County. Give me one moment, Your Honor. Upon arrival, officers spoke with Ms. Jasmine Gransberry, who stated that Mr. Griffin pushed her to the floor and dragged her out the closet by her legs. In addition, one moment, Your Honor. One moment, Your Honor. I'm sorry, my computer just froze. In addition, Your Honor, the Jasmine Gransberry stated to the officers that the defendant damaged some of her property and that damage was less than $500. On scene as well, Mr. Griffin also had complaints about Jasmine Gransberry. In full disclosure, he stated that she swung a knife at him on this date. Going to indictment 646, the state would have expected.
I'm sorry, you said that was 646. Was that actually 647?
Sorry, Your Honor. Now I'm going to 647 at this time. That was 646. Now for 647, where the only charge is battery family violence, the state would have expected its evidence to show that on September 12th of 2020, officers responded to the same location, 7350 Campbellton Road in Fulton County. Upon arrival, officers spoke with Ms. Jasmine Gransberry, who stated that Mr. Griffin pushed her. They began to fight, and she ended up with a swollen bump on her forehead. And lastly, Your Honor, for indictment 21 SC 177415, the state would have expected its evidence to show that there were two incidents on the same day, which is September 30th of 2020. The first incident, Ms. Jasmine Gransberry called the police, and the second incident, she did not. On this day, at the same location mentioned before, 7350 Campbellton Road in Fulton County. In the morning, Ms. Gransberry told police that she was upset that the defendant's friends stayed over for several nights at their house. They began a verbal argument about her friends leaving. The defendant and Ms. Gransberry were behind the sofa, and he pulled her over the sofa. There was a baby that was there that was by the sofa. The baby was 19 months old, so the baby was present. The defendant then grabbed Ms. Gransberry by the neck and tossed her onto the sofa and started hitting her. Ms. Gransberry grabbed her cell phone to call the police, and the defendant snatched her cell phone. The baby was present and crying the whole time. The second incident was around noon. Around midday that day, the defendant went back to Ms. Gransberry, as Ms. Gransberry reported, to apologize. Ms. Gransberry told the defendant to leave. Ms. Gransberry grabbed a shower rod to protect herself. The defendant started punching Ms. Gransberry in the head while she was holding the baby, which is 19 months old.
This baby is not Ms. Gransberry's child with Mr. Griffin?
It is.
It is.
It is their child. Okay.
And then Ms. Gransberry reported that he also choked her at this time as well. Your Honor, the state has been in contact with Ms. Gransberry through her attorney. They are aware of these pleas today. Ms. Gransberry does want a no contact order.
Okay. How do you envision that working? And maybe Ms. Patel fleshes this out a little bit. If Mr. Griffin and Ms. Gransberry share a child, no contact is no contact. So is there a third party that we need to have designated as the go-between for Mr. Griffin to have access to the child, or he's going to take a break for a few years from contact?
I want to say, Mr. Griffin's the best person to answer that. I want to say, I think they might have contact through family members, but I'm not entirely sure about that. I'm looking at it now.
There was contact that she is not taking his family's calls. And so at this point, he's going to have to go through the courts.
Okay. But there's not meant to be baked into the terms of probation. Contact with child is through Aunt so-and-so. There'll be a legal resolution of Mr. Griffin's access to his child.
Yes.
Okay, got it. And I guess that proceeding will reflect the fact that there is a no contact provision as a result of this case.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want no contact with him.
Okay, well, you'll get a chance to tell me about that in a minute.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Ms. Beza.
Thanks.
Ms. Tucson, do you have any criminal history information for Mr. Griffin? Pardon me? Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Patel.
Your Honor, the facts that Ms. Beza put on the record, Ms. Beza, I only have reference to police report in which there's one call to 911 in which she discusses the incident. I do not have anything about this other incident that you put on the record that that was never provided. And so I'm just wondering where that all came from.
She reported the second strangulation when we were, I believe it's when the case was being indicted, but I can check the notes. Yes, it was March of last year, the ADA that was indicting the case, Brad Malkin, she had told him that there was a second strangulation on the same day.
Your Honor, initially I was indicating that counts 5, 6, and 7 would merge because we were never provided anything that had indicated that she was alleging a separate incident other than the fact that the indictment said that the counts were separate and distinct. And the police report that we were provided did not indicate anything that had those allegations that Ms. Gransberry had stated that this had also happened to her earlier in the day.
But it's flipped around. I mean, as I understood Ms. Beza's presentation, the police came after the first one. And so a police report could not have reflected that after the police left, Mr. Griffin came back to say, I'm sorry, there's a shower rod, there's more fighting and more choking. So it's what I understood Ms. Beza to say is that incident number 2, which would be the second half of the indictment,
sure.
No one ever told the police, but Ms. Gransberry alleged it to apparently ADA Malkin, who then baked it into
An indictment.
Yep.
Correct. With that being said, Your Honor, their relationship became very complicated for several reasons. In 2020, my client was living with his mother and Ms. Gransberry was living with them. They had their child at this point together.
Is this Campbellton Road address about which I've heard so much? Is that mom's place or?
That is not his mother's place.
Okay.
His mother passed away and that is sort of where things went south for Mr. Griffin. And they would get into large arguments over him not processing his grief. And in her eyes, he was not stepping up to where she needed him to be. Throughout the span of this time period, because they had a child together, they both very much believed in staying together and trying to make it work, which after the first incident, it should have been a sign that maybe they should have tried to just co-parent separately. The other issue was that Miss Gransberry is not from Atlanta. She did not have a family and any support system, and she very much depended on Mr. Griffin, his support system, and his family. Even when Mr. Griffin was incarcerated, she was dropping off her kids at his father. He's 75 years old. That's where my client stays now. And so I think that in Miss Gransberry's eyes, she didn't want the relationship to end because she felt she very much needed the support. In Mr. Griffin's eyes, he wanted to be involved in his child's life and just thought that this was the right thing to do. It wasn't until he spent a significant amount of time in custody and his father had to have several talks with him about just letting it go. And
when you say significant time in custody in connection with this case or the misdemeanors, or
with this case,
just add them all up, it's a lot of time.
I don't recall the time in custody on the misdemeanors being that long, but I do know that I had argued his bond and he was in custody during COVID.
Okay.
And so when he was released, there wasn't any contact between them. They were using his father and his sister to arrange for the visitation. That has no longer worked. She, for whatever reason, on her own, is just decided to cut off all contact with the family. So my client is well aware he cannot have contact with her, is going to pursue legitimating the child first and then going through the courts. I've explained to him that, at no point can he text her like, hey, we've got court tomorrow or anything like that. And that, the step one is to legitimate the child so that he's got the legal rights to see his child. He has moved on. He has just, in retrospect, he can look back and say that he was in a toxic relationship and that they both brought out the worst in each other. He's in a new relationship that is very different. They are both kind to each other. They don't argue. They don't let things escalate. And so that has been eye-opening for him. Before I forget, Your Honor, we are asking that this be sealed under 42-8-62.1. And the reason for this request is that prior to his arrest, he was working at Goldberg's at the airport. After the arrest, he had 3 different jobs that he was let go from because this showed up on his background check. He was working, doing, I believe,
one of mainline aviation
with mainline aviation with Delta. He was making $18 an hour now.
And the company Goldberg's own mainline aviation.
And now his current employment, I'm happy he's employed, but the only people that will take him with his record is Smoke World, which is great. They have actually treated him very, very well. They've given him all the time to go to court dates, whatever he needs to do, they've been supportive of, but it's not a place that he can ascend in his career. We've talked in depth about my concern. I've been trying to work out diversion because what I wanted was for them both to do family violence intervention through a program and monitoring. And my biggest concern about first offender is my issue of him trying to potentially get back with Miss Gransberry and then them winding up in the same place. But he has assured me that that is not on the table for them. He hasn't heard from her. She hasn't heard from him. And his father is very supportive in him legitimating his child. And so I am hopeful that when that happens, that they're able to work out visitation and everything else like that. And I do believe Mr. Griffin wanted to address the court a little bit as well.
Great. Well, I will gladly hear from him in a minute. Let me ask you a few questions first, Mr. Griffin. So right now your job is with something called Smoke Shop?
It's a company called Smoke World. It's one of the best smoke shops in the city. It's a real official company. It's a couple stores. They got 2 stores right now. One in Buckhead, one on Spring Street in Midtown, across the street from the Varsity. They got like 3 more stores that's been opening like the next 2 months. It's a good company. They give you benefits and stuff like that. You earn commission. I get paid $15 an hour and I get paid every week. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that.
What do you do?
I'm like a salesman. Basically, like I do everything in the job, sell items, clean stuff. We make videos and stuff. We got like a Instagram. We post products and stuff. It's a popular smoke shop. We get a lot of famous people, like mostly rappers and stuff. Like all the big time rappers from Atlanta go to like the Buckhead location. We get out of town rappers and stuff like that in our midtown location. It's a cool job.
But if I was the famous person who walked in, you might be at the cash register, or I could say,
I might be at the cash register. I might come to you or assist you, then meet you at the cash register. Just different things. When I get jobs, because like I'm a worker, I'm not just one of those people who get a job and be new to working. When I get a job, I try to be like good at my job, get to know the job,
Sure.
Stuff like that.
Okay. And right now you're living with your father.
Yes, sir.
Who is Otis Hudson?
That's my dad.
Okay. So he helped get you your bond and you're staying with him.
Yes, sir.
Is he retired?
I'm not even gonna lie to you, man. My dad just went back to work. He just went back to work.
At 75. He's like you. He's a worker.
And today he was gonna go to court with me. I had stayed at this female house or whatever. She stayed 10 minutes away from here. I didn't even want him to get up this morning and walk down the stairs and go to court. I texted him and told him I was good. You know what I'm saying? Because he one of them old people who just don't like to sit down, but he need to sit down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is home for you your dad's house, or is it at your lady friend's house?
It's my dad's house.
Okay. And what's the last name of your new lady friend?
I'm Nichols.
Nichols.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's where you were last night?
No. I was at a homegirl house.
Oh,
I wasn't at the
all right. Let's not get that on the record.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. That'll be our little secret. All right. But your special friend is Ms. Nichols.
Yes.
Okay. And you have one kid or more than one kid?
I have one, but I'm expecting one later this year with the girl whose last name is Nichols.
Not the last night girl, but
the last night girl, Nichols, her, yeah.
Well, last night you weren't at Ms. Nichols' house.
No, I was at my homegirl house.
Right.
Nobody who I mess with.
No kid with homegirl.
No.
Got it. Okay. So Ms. Nichols is expecting.
Yes.
Okay. And you think you're the dad?
I know I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But you have one kid through Ms. Gransberry.
Yes.
Boy or girl?
Boy.
What's his name?
Chase.
Chase.
And his middle name is the money, so you can put D, and his last name is Griffin.
Okay. Chase is his name.
Yeah.
Got it. So Chase is with Ms. Gransberry, and Ms. Gransberry has blocked contact.
Yes.
When did you last see Chase?
My last time seeing him when I got out in April, I had seen him like 2 times. She was going through my dad and my sister, but she had got to the point when she was like, oh, she didn't want to go through there no more. She wanted to talk to me because she's telling them, oh, he's a grown man and stuff like that. So I'm like, I don't want to talk to her. So she started ignoring them and, trying to hit me up from like text now numbers and stuff like that. But
so when did you last see Chase?
In April.
In April. So it's been a long time, almost a year. Okay.
I done paid for stuff, Yeezys and stuff. Cause like when we was together and stuff, we like sneakerheads and stuff. I paid for Yeezys and stuff. He never got them. So I ended up having to give them to my little cousins and sell them to my cousins.
Yeezys? How old is Chase?
Chase is 2 now, but
you're getting him Yeezys.
Yeah, his first pair.
All right. I'm sure he's wearing them out. All right. So one kid, one on the way. Ms. Nichols. And when you're on probation, probation needs to know where home is going to be. Home doesn't have to be dad. Home could be your home girl. It could be Ms. Nichols. Where is home likely to be for you while you're on probation?
With my dad.
Dad. Okay.
But it'll change soon, like, later on this year, because I'm gonna end up getting my own stuff.
Yeah, if you have a kid.
Okay, when I got out in April, it took me a little time to get kind of right because I had just did 6 months. That was my first time I had got this job. They weren't doing background check when I started, but something happened at the job. Somebody got the fines turned to like a shootout. They started doing background checks. Ended up losing that. Got another job.
Where were you where there was a shootout?
It was a Delta company at the airport, but it's on like the Delta side where the warehouse is at.
Okay.
So, that was crazy, a good job. They was hiring everybody, no
Sure.
background. Something
Right.
happened, they started checking,
Okay.
let me go,
All right.
But
Well,
that was
you
the
are at
first
Smoke Shop now. That may
Yeah.
change. We'll figure that out. Okay. I've asked the questions I've got. Was there something you wanted to add?
I really don't have a question. I was just wanting to explain something.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to explain like the fact that, okay, like the girl Jasmine, she been doing this stuff on purpose. Like she knows she can like answer the phone from her sister and my dad. She know that like I don't want to be with her no more. The first 2 times we got a little, charges. I went to jail. I was being done by coming back. We stayed together. Both our names on the lease. So, by us not paying the rent, it fall on our credit. So we was trying to help each other as much as we can, but it was kind of toxic because she wasn't taking in consideration that I just had lost my mom. She ain't really her mama and her, they ain't have a good relationship. So she wouldn't understand that. So it was just toxic. So now that she know that I don't want to be with her, I don't really talk to her. We don't talk at all. She's holding Chase against me, like me not being able to see him. She know that's really like one of the only things that can really hurt me. So I'm gonna go on getting legitimized later on next month after the 7th of February, because I got a meeting with child support on the 7th of February.
Okay. Well, you're doing the right things with Chase. That's good. You want to be in his life. You want to be present and not just the sneaker guy for him.
Yeah.
But as Ms. Patel mentioned, you need to be careful that in your efforts to get access to Chase and be present in his life, you steer clear of Ms. Gransberry because she might, because she misses you or is bitter or doesn't like Ms. Nichols, try to manufacture a situation where you and she are in the same place and she snaps a picture. And then all of a sudden she said, look, he was here, and tries to revoke your probation, and that could get messy. And it'll be her word versus your word. So just be real thoughtful about that.
I am, because she will do something like that. Like she would text me from a certain number, and because I just got some messages the other day. I still got them in my phone, so I send you screenshots of it. Yeah, so she would do something like that.
And I want to be clear, I am not taking sides here. I'm not saying she would do that, but someone could do that.
Mhm.
And it sounds like your relationship with her was pretty complicated.
Yeah.
And so either one of you does something dumb, she's going to have to deal with her case. She's got her own situation and she needs to stay away from you,
Mhm.
but you need to stay away from her. And Chase makes that complicated, but you got to deal with that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Mr. Griffin, I find there's a factual basis for your pleas in all 3 cases. It was a toxic relationship and neither of you handled it well. My guess is that you got smacked some too. You don't put hands on people unless they're saying, I want your hands on me.
Yeah. And can I say one more thing? And then I'm gonna let you have it.
Okay.
And yeah, from the first time, right? The first time, I ain't even gonna lie, that was all true. The one when she had got the aggravated assault. My mom had just passed away like 3 days before that. I ain't want to deal with all that. That's why I called the police. She had the knives and stuff, but I had got released the next day. She did a month, and stuff like that. When we was in there, she was like, Cortez, I'm not going home and all that. I was like, what I'm supposed to tell you? She held that against me when she got out. Like when she got out, she didn't want to say nothing to me. She like, I did a month. I'm gonna make sure you know what I'm saying? Like I was like, man, you did only a little month. That's when we was back talking and stuff. You only did a little month. A month you did one day. I bet you can't do no money and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So
Toxic.
yeah, tit for tat. That's all.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I find there's a factual basis that these things happen. I also find that your plea is knowing and voluntary. Knowing means you've understood everything we've been talking about. And if you didn't, you either ask me or Ms. Patel. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And voluntary, you know what it means, but so we're on the record, means no one's forcing you to take these pleas, that you've decided it's in your best interest to move forward, take first offender, and move on with your life. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm sentencing you pursuant to the Probation Options Management Act. All that means is that while you're on probation, which you will be for at least 3 years, if you have a small violation, you miss a meeting, or maybe you test positive for something you're not supposed to have in your system, you and probation work that out. Doesn't need to bug me. If you get arrested again, or there's anything about you connecting with Ms. Gransberry, that comes back to me, and we have a long conversation that may not end well if something like that happens. So you need to stay out of trouble and stay out of her world. Ms. Beza, I can't remember what you said about your ability to contact Ms. Gransberry. I think what you said is that she is in fact very interested in the no contact. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. First offender, you are eligible for first offender, and it is a good opportunity, but it comes with a risk, and I need to make sure you understand it. In general, is good. It means when you leave here today, you don't have a conviction. Even though you're under sentence in 3 cases, you don't have a conviction. So if you're looking for a different job, you want to go back to school, and they say, tell me about your criminal history, the answer is I have none. You don't have a conviction. And it will stay that way as long as you do well on probation. And if you successfully complete probation, it's all wiped off. You don't have a criminal history. That's the good part. And if you are pretty sure that at the young age of 22, for the next 3 years, you can stay out of trouble, in particular, stay out of Ms. Gransberry's world, then you made the right call. But you need to understand that the downside of first offender is that if you get arrested again and it's something serious, that'll come back to me. If it is you putting your hands on Ms. Nichols or your homegirl or anyone else the wrong way, it's going to end poorly. You'll have new charges. And I'd have the ability, if the state proved it, to not only revoke your probation, but say, forget it. We're not doing this first offender thing. Let me look at all these charges. All right, he pled guilty to 2 aggravated assaults. That's up to 40 years. And you just busted your new girlfriend's nose. 10 years. Boom. Done. No trial. I can send you to 10 years. I can send you to 40 years. I don't think that's going to happen. One, because I don't think you're going to get in trouble. But you need to understand that if things blow up, and you're arrested again, and there are new charges, and they're serious, and in particular, if they involve domestic violence, I will be inclined to say, forget about probation, forget about the smoke shop, forget about Chase. You can see Chase when he's a teenager. If you can go down the road because you beat up another girlfriend. Does that make sense, what I'm describing?
Yes, sir.
So that's the risk of first offender. It's generally good. If you mess up in a bad way, then it's bad. Do you think you understand the benefits of first offender and the risk?
I fully understand.
Do you want to be sentenced as a first offender?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I will do that. I find that you understand the benefits and the risk of first offender. I will sentence you as a first offender. And in the case 21 SC 177415, I will sentence you on, get the indictment in front of me so I say these the right way. On count 1 to 3 years, counts 2 through 4 are 12 months each. Count 5 is 3 years. 6 and 7 are 12 months each. And everything runs concurrently, meaning together. So it's a 3-year sentence. And it's probated. Special condition number 1 of your probation is no contact with Ms. Gransberry. That means no direct contact. That's obvious. You don't call her, you don't write her, you don't Instagram her, whatever people do now. But no indirect contact. So let's say you got a shared friend, Janice. You cannot reach out to Janice to say, hey, tell Ms. Gransberry, I'm sorry for what I did, or tell her I say hi to Chase. If Ms. Gransberry can bring someone in here to say, yeah, I talked to Ms. Gransberry, but it's because Griffin told me to, that's on you. And that's a violation of your probation. Second special condition of probation is you're going to complete a family violence intervention program. That is a multi-week class where you're going to learn tools to handle things differently if they get tense with you and someone special in your life. That's it, because it sounds like you're going to be working hard. I had one more idea, but I'm not worried about you not working. Ms. Beza, did you have any other conditions you wanted to see in the felony case?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Patel?
No, Your Honor.
So the two state court cases, I am inclined to do suspended sentences because I worry that if I do probated sentences, Mr. Griffin will need to be reporting to DCS, which he must because of the felonies, but also Judicial Correction Services, paying a different fee, and basically have two supervisions. And I don't think that's necessary or productive. And so my inclination is to impose 12-month suspended sentences in the two misdemeanors. I don't know what you all negotiated. You may have wanted both forms of probation. Ms. Beza, do you have a perspective on that?
I think 12 months suspended is reasonable, given that he has 3 years on felony probation.
Okay, well, let me make that clear. In the case ending in 647, which is only one misdemeanor, I will sentence Mr. Griffin to 12 months, but suspended. And in the case ending in 646, which has two misdemeanors, 12 months each count, they'll run concurrently and they are suspended as well. I should let you know, Mr. Griffin, you've used up your misdemeanor family violence crimes. If you are arrested again for family violence battery or family violence simple battery, it's going to be a felony, which means you're back in superior court. You're not in state court, and the sentences are bigger, and of course, it's going to blow up your first offender. But those earlier cases you had with Ms. Gransberry, they were less serious in terms of the charges, and you were down in state court, and you were looking at sentences that were in months rather than years. You don't get more family violence batteries. Doesn't matter if it's a different victim. You've used those up. I just need to make sure you understand that your next family violence battery or simple battery, the state could choose to charge as a felony because it legally would be a felony. Understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. Ms. Beza, anything else in Mr. Griffin's cases?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Patel?
Your Honor, will you allow this case to be under seal?
I will. I don't know the mechanism by which we do that. Do you file something or is it on the final disposition?
In the past, when we would touch the indictment, it would be written on the indictment and the clerk's office would just process it that way. I think if
Okay.
it's on the disposition, it should be processed the same way.
And what is the statute you were invoking so that we make sure it gets in there?
It's 42-8-62.1.
42-8-62.1. Okay. Ms. Beza, any opposition to these dispositions being filed under seal in that way?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll do that. The clerk's office has had some issues where those sealings meant that Ms. Nelson and I could not get into the case. More importantly, DCS couldn't get into the case, and so they couldn't ever file anything. I think that's been fixed. I've been told that's fixed so that it is sealed to the general public. An employer could not find it, but we could get into it if we needed to because of record-keeping purposes. All right, I think that's it. Mr. Griffin, do you have any questions about what we've talked about?
No, sir.
All right, I hope you handle this the right way. I wish you best of luck. You're going to need to meet with Ms. Tucson, who's with probation. She's not going to be your probation officer, but she's going to let you know when and where you need to report to probation. Don't miss that first meeting, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Judge.
May I be excused, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So thank you for being here. Mr. Pritchett is here. I think I'm going to ask Ms. Patel just to stick around because I don't know that we can get Mr. Bridges to parachute in, just so that we've got someone here. I need him to let me know what his plans are. Pardon me?
Oh my gosh, it's not going up.
Oh, that's Ms. Beza. We'll get rid of her. Gone. All right. I don't think we even need to take this down. I just need to just create a pulse check with Mr. Pritchett. And we'll see. Who are you guys here for? Oh, all right. How are you connected to Mr. Pritchett? Okay. So we'll bring him out in a minute. Mr. Pritchett had told me in the past that one, he's not Mr. Pritchett. He's a sovereign citizen, but he didn't want a lawyer. He didn't want the lawyer who was appointed to him. So I just need to work through whether he's going to represent himself or if he's going to work with the gentleman who's been appointed, or maybe because you're here to tell me we've hired someone for Mr. Pritchett. I think he has an appointed lawyer. I know his lawyer, and I think he was appointed to represent Mr. Pritchett. But we just need to work through it because his case, along with his co-defendants, is on our next calendar and the one after that, and it's moving up towards being a trial if that's what Mr. Pritchett wants. And I just need to know how I'm going to interact with him. So just wanted you all to know that's all we're going to cover today. Okay. All right. If we could bring him out, please. I don't think so. I think it's, I don't know how that works, but that's not, it's something that happens post-sentence.
So,
Yeah, in that box. Yeah, I think that's where I'd put it. Unless I don't assume it's not something you check up at the top. There are a bunch of statutes up at the top. No, I'd put it in the box. We're officially down to Mr. Lee for tomorrow. If we have any update on Mr. Wolf. Is Mr. Wolf your client? No. Do you have any of do you have Holder or Wolf?
I do not.
Wolf, oh, Wolf is that Mr. Manetas guy. All right. And then what is the Holder case? Eugene Holder. Oh, right. I remember that one too. That's the cargo theft guy. All right. When are we going to get you a trial, Ms. Patel? I don't know.
Well, I'm pretty sure next year it's going to be a trial. And once I get all the discoveries, when I'll have a trial.
Beard would be a retrial. Is this the gentleman where Judge Down said new trial? Okay.
Especially now that he's out on bond.
Yeah. Is he back there?
Yeah, he's in the
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure everything's all right. What about Heavenly Mitchell?
That will be a trial, but Ms. Primovic just told me that Daryl Lowe is being specially set that week.
It is. Yeah, yeah. I'm just wondering when we can get you a trial, but
I'm in no rush.
you can get rusty. No, Mr. Lowe, we had to specially set to make sure. And then behind that would be Hodges, which is hers also. And Mr. Pritchett and his co-defendants.
Do we have a conflict defender assigned to this courtroom yet? Because that's another one of the ones that would almost be ready, Ramel Williams.
Right. You've got Ramel Williams and you guys are on speaking terms. It's the co-defendant. Right. But you have did you inherit Mr. Franklin he's a couple guys on bond, murder cases. Those are yours now?
They are.
Those we're going to need to try. I mean, I appreciate they're a little less urgent, not to the victim's family, but one guy where it was like a baseball bat after some juice got thrown on him.
There's a lot of outstanding discovery on those, but I have reached out to the state and
Okay.
hopefully we can get the ball rolling on those.
Yeah, boy, we need to get them on some calendars then if you're not getting what you need.
They're coming up, and Charlie Grant is the one on the 21st that
Okay.
I'll email Ms. Nelson about.
Well, but she was not on bond for a long time, and that was a more recent development. But there are a couple that I inherited with the defendants on bond, and I think the last name is Williams also.
And he's on our March 1st calendar.
Oh, is this the one with the guest judge? Is that the okay? All right. Are you able to be ready on that, or do I need to fuss at the state because you don't have what you need? What would you not have in that case?
So it's the medical records, which is the entire basis of.
Oh, because this guy survived for months and months.
And there's nothing that was provided, and I don't believe the state has them either. But I followed up with the state yesterday, reached out to them.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Pritchett.
Are we on record?
We are not on the record.
Can we get on record, please?
Not yet. Can you take a seat, please?
Are we on record?
You heard me the first time. I need you to sit down, okay?
Am I obliged to sit down? Am I obliged to sit down?
No, you can stand. If you want to stand, I'm not going to pick that fight with you. Mr. Pritchett, I just need to figure out whether you're going to be representing yourself or if you're going to work with Mr. Bridges.
I believe there's been a mistake concerning this entire alleged case. What evidence is there to prove that I own that name and the charges applied to me?
So when I know who's representing you, I'm happy to discuss those topics with you. But I need to know if you're working with Mr. Bridges or if you want to represent yourself. You're welcome to represent yourself. We just have to have a conversation about that before I can hear from you rather than from Mr. Bridges, your attorney.
Mr. McBurney, did we have a conversation before about this?
So we've had a couple conversations, but I left them unsure of what it was you wanted to do.
Does Mr. Bridges have any delegated authority to represent that name?
What do you mean by represent that name?
Does he have any delegated authority to represent that name? I'll go back to my first question, because I believe there's been an entire mistake. What evidence is there to prove that I own that name, and I am authorized and that the charges apply to me?
So I'll go to a different question. What name would you like me to call you?
Am I obliged to claim ownership of that name or use that as a personal identification? Am I obliged to take and claim ownership of that name?
So you're answering my question with a question, which of course is frustrating and not real helpful. I want to make sure I'm referring to you by the right name. Should I not call you Mr. Pritchett?
Am I obliged to claim ownership of that name?
All right, we are done. If you could take the gentleman in the red jumpsuit out of court, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Patel.
No problem.
So, logistically, Mr. Parrish, we'll need to work through, I don't remember how severance was going to play out, and we don't need to get substantive right now, but were you expecting to try Pritchett, Robinson, and Riley together?
At least, at the minimum, Pritchett and Robinson.
Okay. Got it. And then maybe Riley, or Riley might not be a trial anyway.
Riley might not be a trial, and Callis may not be a trial.
Okay.
Those are still details we're working out between each other.
Okay. If Riley went by the wayside like Kalish, you don't think there's a Bruton issue or a other severance? I mean, I'll hear argument if the lawyers or the non-lawyers have it, but you think that they are triable together?
I believe so. Judge.
Okay. And is this, I don't remember which case you said, it's always on warm standby. You are able to make it a trial, not on a moment's notice, but if we, for some reason, the week of the 16th got all the way down to this case, you're in a position to go forward.
That's not this case. That's the Stronger Boy.
Okay.
I may have slightly overstated our position on it.
Okay.
But this one, we do have out-of-state witnesses from California, Florida, South Carolina. So there's a lot of moving
Parts. Okay. Well, we won't spring it on anyone, and I need to figure out what what's going to happen with Mr. Pritchett anyway. Mr. Robinson doesn't have this issue. Who represents Mr. Robinson?
It is.
I can look it up, but I'm not aware of us having.
Ms. Taylor, I don't remember.
Okay, Beverly Taylor, got it. Nope, so we won't have that issue. And I know the two other folks are well represented also. Okay, well, I appreciate you coming by. You got any suggestions? No? All right. Have you seen your brother do this before? Not acknowledge his name, not want to meaningfully interact? Yes. This is not new to you.
I don't know how to answer that question because it's different every time. It's different responses every time. It's like,
Okay, I'm not trying to get you in the middle of it. I want to make sure he has a lawyer, if he'll work with a lawyer. Representing yourself is rarely a good idea. It typically ends real poorly for the defendant. You can imagine what a jury would do if this is what's going on in court. So I'm just trying to figure out how to connect. He doesn't have to connect. He could stand throughout the trial in a red jumpsuit and say, who gave you authority to use my name, or whatever the sovereign citizen thing is. And it ends the same way. The jury says, wow, that guy is a scary guy. And I just assume that not happen to Mr. Pritchett, but I'm not sure who connects with him. I clearly don't. I wasn't sure if family did, but he is an adult and he's gonna manage this in the way I guess he thinks is in his best interest. Do you know, let me try one other question. Do you know if the family is planning on hiring someone to represent him?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Are your parents active in his life, or are you his primary connection?
They're active.
Pardon me?
They're active.
They're active. Okay. All right. Well, you may want to talk with them about how this went. I'll have Mr. Bridges, the lawyer, here next time, but Mr. Bridges has said, I go talk to him and he say, I didn't hire you. I don't want you. Who authorized you to represent that name? Whatever we heard him say. So just trying to work through it. I appreciate you being here. Do you have any questions?
Well, my only question is, as far as Mr. Bridges, will him and Richard have conversations if he doesn't want him on his case?
When you say Pritchett, you mean your brother? Yeah. So your brother qualified for appointed counsel. At some point, he was willing to talk to someone to say, I don't have funds to hire an attorney, but you have a right to an attorney. So Mr. Bridges was appointed to represent him. Since that time, Mr. Bridges has explained, when I've asked, he won't talk, Pritchett won't talk. I don't acknowledge you. I didn't ask for you, etc. And so I have in the past tried to speak with your brother about his intentions. Do you want to represent yourself, which he can do? He has an absolute right to be his own lawyer. Or do you want Mr. Bridges to stay your lawyer? And what happened today is, but we don't end up talking about that. We go around and around in circles. Like, who said you could use my name? And no one needs to tell me that I can use his name. That's just not how it works. And he knows that, but he's doing his thing. But I can't let him represent himself without us having a pretty detailed hearing where I get on the record how far he went in school. Does he understand the risks of representing himself, the consequences, etc.? But we don't get past that little threshold of effectively, how dare you use my name kind of thing. So we'll see what happens. Thank you for being here. All right. Thanks for sticking around, Ms. Patel. And you too, Mr. Parrish. So we're picking a jury tomorrow, but it doesn't involve any of you all. Mr. Lee, who is Ms. Convery's case? Do we know who is trying it with her?
At this point, I don't.
Okay.
She states threatened me.
Okay.
At this point,
But you dodged it? Okay, we'll see. All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Judge. Quick question. Was this on the calendar today?
No, you didn't miss anything. I had asked Ms. Nelson to please get Mr. Pritchett over here as soon as he made landfall, because we had to do a production order. He made landfall last night, so sheriff did a great job of getting him over here. And my team said, hey, by the way, Pritchett's here. I'm like, let's not skip this opportunity. And so it would have been fine if Ms. Charles stayed here, but she was able to grab you and you got to see and hear what I got to see and hear.
Absolutely. No, it's my first time seeing him, so it's important to see.
Yep. He sat last time, so there's been one change. He stood this time, he sat last time.
All right.
All right. See ya. Will you come back to chambers after you do whatever you need to do here? You have some questions people want you to answer. We're finished. Thank you so much. You got the info you needed from Griffin and. Pardon me? Avit, he is doing pretrial diversion. So he won't be on your radar if he does well. No, we're done. There was gonna be a plea. Bass can't come over. He is quarantined. Did you need this back? What I wrote on it, I don't need, but I appreciate you. So you can keep that. Yep. Oh, I need